For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, here to make a brand new video for you for this week. And today's video, I'm going over my third favorite metal band of all time, Municipal Waste. And I'm going to go through their albums and rank them from least favorite to most favorite. So without any further ado, I'll just get right into it with my least favorite album by them, Electrified Brain. It's their most recent album. I honestly don't think it's that bad of an album, but something has to be first, something has to be last. And the thing with this album is it just hasn't sunk in yet. I think there's a lot of really good songs in here, but I'm still kind of getting used to it. Really haven't given it a good hard listen. So something like Crank the Heat is definitely a great song, has kind of a corny little music video to go along with it, which I enjoy. But honestly, it just hasn't sunk in yet. For some reason, too, I feel like the vocals were recorded in kind of a weird way because it sounded like Tony almost had like his teeth replaced or something, like he was sucking air through his teeth. I don't know if it was just the recording. I noticed that with the newest Goat Whore album as well, to the point where I almost didn't even think it was the same singer. It sounded so different to me. But then I looked it up and, it's still Tony on vocals. It just didn't sound like him at first. It was kind of weird. So I think that threw me off. But I think just being the newest record, I just haven't given it that much of a listen. It's a great album. I actually picked up this blue variant when I saw them live with their opening for Anthrax and Black Label Society up in Massachusetts. That was a cool show. I got to meet the whole band, had them sign one of my CDs. So I think the more I listen to it, the more I'll like it. But again, someone's got to be first, someone's got to be last, and there's nothing wrong with it because I think they're definitely one of the best bands to see live for me. I've seen them 4 times, which is tied with Obituary for the most amount of times I've seen any band, which isn't much for most people, but I just don't go to a lot of concerts. So for me, 4 is kind of a lot for any particular band, but I enjoy seeing them live the most. And I still think it's a great album, and I'm sure the more I listen to it, the more I'll like it. Second from the bottom was kind of a tie between this and the next one, but it's their first album, Waste 'Em All. I think it's a great album. It's very punk. It does much more of that, has much more of that crossover feel than their other records do, or at least it feels more like it's teetering on the punk vibe than anything else. So obviously early in their career, I believe this is the only album without Phil. So otherwise, they've been the same 4 members pretty much since their second album. So Phil on bass, Tony vocals, Ryan doing guitar and I think backup vocals, and then Dave on drums. It's essentially been the same band ever since the album after this, I believe. And the only recent addition was Nick on additional guitar, I believe. Otherwise, they've pretty much been the same 4-piece since about 2004, which is awesome. So this record does definitely sound a bit different. It's still really cool. And again, it's very punk versus the rest of their albums. Definitely are more on the thrash side. But again, something has to be first, something has to be last. This one's second to last. But it's still a great album. And I have it on a white vinyl, which I think looks really cool. I don't have a ton of white vinyls. So I think it's very fitting for this. Then next in line is their second to last album, Slime and Punishment. Again, this is sort of interchangeable with their first in the order. It's kind of hard to rank this record. I know when it came out, it didn't get very stellar reviews. When I first listened to it, I didn't care for it too much. There are a few individual songs I think are kind of silly. But then there are some really awesome songs. Like Breathe Grease is definitely one of my favorite songs, easily on this record. Possibly one of my favorites by the band. I love the music video. I think it's corny. It fits the band perfectly. The song is a constant repeat. Definitely one of my favorites. Slime and Punishment's also great, but then you have silly ones like Amateur Sketch, Parole Violators with the little sketch where they have a guy being pulled over. It just sounds really corny, and I think the guys in the video or the audio sound like they're like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something. It just sounds really corny and silly. But it definitely fits the band. I just didn't really care for it and didn't need it in my record. But otherwise, it was fine. There's just some really awesome songs and some really not so awesome songs. And given the album art, I think this Coke Bottle Clear fits as well. So I will say most of the record colors that I have fit the albums really well. That wasn't necessarily on purpose. It was just what I got my hands on. But I think it was really good for the bands. And As you probably know by now, I'm a real big fan of the color vinyls. I love collecting them as much as I love the music. I like having a variety. So when it matches or when it's just really cool and not all the albums are like gold or red or clear, I feel like the same couple colors show up all the time. And band gives you something different each time. And if it does match the art, I like that as well, especially with Municipal Waste art because it's like got that slime, waste color, the bright greens, the bright pinks, stuff like that. I enjoy that in the albums. So next you have Massive Aggressive. Of course, a play on the term passive aggressive. For some reason, when I first heard this, I thought it was Massive Aggression, which I think would be a good title too. But the pun of Massive Aggressive is actually much better, which I never really realized. But now that I have the physical version, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. This album has some greats on here. I think Wolves at Chernobyl, yes, that one is fantastic. Um, and Media Skeptic. Those are definitely two of my favorites. I love this album, but I feel like it doesn't get a lot of spins for me only because there's a few great songs, like I mentioned. And I feel like for some reason, the rest I just sort of don't pay attention to as much or don't recognize. But then when I hear it, especially played, let's say on Spotify on random, and I come up to a song on this album and I really enjoy it and I go, oh, what album's it on? It's like, oh, Massive Aggressive. Okay. Well, it's a great song. I just didn't realize it was on this album. So that's why it's sort of in the middle for sure. And obviously, I love the color for this too. It matches the purple and green of the album, the nice little purple, which you probably can't really see that well, but take my word for it. It's a really nice purple. I think it fits the album perfectly. Next, we have The Fatal Feast, Waste in Space. This is really starting to get into the cream of the crop for this band. I definitely love the album art. I think it fits perfectly with the vibe of the band, the vibe of the album. And there are just so many songs on here, almost too many awesome ones to name. But for just a few, Repossession, Unholy Abductor, Covered in Sick, the Barfer is probably one of the greatest songs they've ever done. It's so fun. You're Cut Off, great music video for that as well. Um, Jesus Freaks, 12 Step Program, Residential Disaster. This is probably one of their most sing along albums. There's very few songs on here that come up where I don't want to just sing along with it, throw my fist in the air, and feel like I'm at a concert. It's just amazing. I love the vibe of it. I love all the songs, and it also has a really cool color vinyl. Looks like candy almost. It's orange. It's got that splatter on there. I think it's the only splatter I have, but I think it fits perfectly. The only thing I don't like is their love for printed inner sleeve because, as you see, they get seam splits too easily. So I'll probably have to replace that at some point because I'm not really a fan. I'd rather have just the solid, either the album covers that have that nice film inside or something clear so I could see the color inside. But uh, next, we have my second favorite album, which was my first favorite for a while, but the next one kind of edged it out the more I think about the songs in it. But it's The Art of Partying. I think probably the album most people recognize by them. I have this album art up on my wall, and it was the first metal hoodie I ever bought. So I had this art on a hoodie till it wore off to the point where it was just a black hoodie with basically nothing on it anymore. I wore it so much that, like I said, it was essentially illegible. That's how much I liked it. This has tons and tons of great songs. I absolutely love ADD, Beer Pressure. Again, it's a lot like the Barfer, where it kind of tells a story, and I really enjoy that. I think it's hilarious. Sadistic Musician, or Magician, sorry. Great music video as well. And then, of course, um, yeah, pretty much everything on here is good. There's really nothing I could say that I don't like. And then, of course, the end, Born to Party. Great story in that, too. Just a lot of fun. Well, story as much as, crossover bands have stories in their songs. And a nice blue vinyl to go with it. For some reason, it took me a long time to get this on color vinyl. But then when they finally repressed it through Earache, I hopped on that. And my number one is their second album, Hazardous Mutation. Got the replica art. I absolutely love this. This was really kind of came to the top for me. I didn't listen to it a ton when I first got into the band. It was mostly The Art of Partying. But the more I listened to this, the more it became obvious that this would be my favorite. I absolutely love pretty much every song on this, honestly. I think my favorites are probably Mind Eraser and Abusement Park. Those are great. And I'm also really grateful that Earache repressed this because for a while this was their most rare and expensive album. A copy of a yellow LP of this would go for close to about $100. And then recently they repressed it in a couple different colors. I believe it was like red, pink, and maybe yellow. And I got my hands on the pink one, and it's super bright pink. I mean, honestly, probably the most fluorescent bright color I have as a vinyl, and I think it fits their style. Definitely my favorite album, but honestly, I like everything they do. I also have the split with Toxic Holocaust. I have an EP that they did a little while ago, I think called The Last Rager, and I just ordered the one that came out as a 7-inch. I think it was called like Tango Thrash or something, and it has, I think, uh, I think it has like art on the front from maybe Escape from New York, but that was originally a 7-inch. Came out recently on CD and 12-inch LP, so they repressed it, put some extra songs on there. That is literally on the way right now from Nuclear Blast. So when I get that, maybe I can show that off in a video. But they really don't have any bad records. If you're not a fan of this kind of music, you think, oh, it's pizza thrash, party thrash. I'm telling you, give it another chance. I think you'll like it. They're really a much better band than people give them credit for. They're a lot of fun live. The whole band is just so much fun to see, so much energy on stage. Easily my favorite band to see live. So even if you think you don't like them, I would give them a chance because they might be a lot more fun than you think. So until next video, leave a comment if you want me to go through any of my other favorite bands' discographies. I have a few planned for the future, but let me know what your favorite album is, and I'll see you in the next video.